Michelle, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, David.
Welcome to the channel. It's wonderful to have you here.
It's such a pleasure. I'm really, really thrilled and excited. Thank you.
So, for anyone watching, to introduce Michelle, Michelle Tonneson is an experienced executive advisor, business consultant, and accredited transformative coach. Her business, Maya, helps organizations to grow and people to thrive. Michelle has worked with the management, empowerment, and development of people and culture in international organizations over the past 20 years, both as a consultant and as a C suite level executive. Her extensive work experience spans startups, scale ups, and multinational corporations in a wide range of industries, as well as big four consultancies. I connected with Michelle after she posted on LinkedIn about having recently completed the Animas coaching diploma. So, Michelle, I'd like to start by asking you, can you tell us a little bit more about your business, Maya?
Absolutely. Thank you. It always sounds so flashy when someone else reads your bio back to you. But yes, I have had, I guess, quite an well, to me, interesting career trajectory because I'm a big believer in lifelong learning, continuous personal development, and growth. And I really practice what I preach. Because I started off my career as a management consultant, start as a graduate straight out of business school, and that was thrilling. And I learned so much from diving into different companies with different problems and challenges. And when you are in the sort of big four consultancies, you get a great training there in terms of methodologies, frameworks for problem solution and problem solving, and also how to present this in a persuasive way. So that was great. The thing was, I was running really, really quickly most of my sort of younger life, and at one point I just hit the wall. It's always about the next step up the ladder, the next promotion. It was very much about titles and position, and there was a lot of political agendas, games people played, and I think perhaps quite early on, perhaps inside of me there was a voice that I don't think this quite aligns with your values. But I just kept pushing on because there was a lot of status and I learned a lot. But I also learned a lot from watching other people's mistakes as well as making mistakes. And then I branched into being an independent consultant to have sort of more flexibility. I had a young family, plus it gave me the opportunity to write. I hear a lot of people say this, I always wanted to write a book, but I actually went off and did it. And I did creative writing courses. I went to Faber Academy. I went to London School of Journalism to really get the tools and frameworks to do this. So I did that alongside writing articles for business magazines and also working as a consultant for a major telecoms client. So I kind of felt I had the best of both worlds there. Um, and then I stepped into the corporate world, but on the other side of the desk as an executive myself. First as global head of HR, and then I transitioned into a COO role, and and then a chief people officer role. So all of this gave me a different challenge, and it also kept me in that field of specializing in people and culture, communication, and management, as well as empowerment of people. And that's really where I thrive. It's less the project management and the business process mapping, which I've also done a lot of as a management consultant. I really feel, and I have such a passion for helping people thrive, helping people become the best they can be, whether it's in their work life or their personal lives. And that sort of opened that door for perhaps diving into coaching as a sort of more fully fledged profession was something that could be an option for me. And I have coached most of my career because I work with project teams as a project managers. I've had line management responsibility. I've built teams from scratch. I've built companies from scratch as part of startups. Um, so I've coached everyone from graduates to board, boards of directors and CEOs. But that was sort of both informal and formal, but not in the profession of being a coach with a capital C. So yeah, last year I decided to strengthen my coaching capabilities, and I did a business coaching course at the Miller Institute at Cambridge, which was really great. And then this year I decided to dive deeper into becoming a more holistic coach in terms of coaching the whole person, exploring the psychology and behavioral science that form part of certain frameworks and methodologies that I just found incredibly helpful. Because whether you're a stay-at-home mom wanting to break back into the job market or you're a high-flying executive, we're all human beings and we struggle with certain emotions, limiting beliefs, etc. So I that's why I went further down the coaching trajectory. Uh, but to go back to your question, sorry for going off on a tangent. My business now straddles the consulting and the coaching, uh, and I think I managed to do that fairly well. But once you're going to ask me about the challenges of that, I can dive deeper into to that. But yeah, so I offer primarily leadership and executive coaching as well as career coaching. But now I'm also able to offer that more broader service of transformative life coaching because people may start off with thinking they have one challenge and it's actually linked to another challenge that is holding them back from achieving what they want to in terms of goals, dreams, ambitions, or maybe just better balance in their lives.
Wow. Thank you, Michelle, for that whistle stop tour. So, naturally, I have to ask you about your challenges that you've encountered breaking away from the corporate world and building your business, which I believe was established in 2022. Along with the challenges that you've encountered, I'd love to know where the idea for the name of your business came from.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So Maya is the goddess of growth. And so I just felt that was when I was looking, I like being a wordsmith and author. I like playing with words. I like really having deep meanings to names. So I didn't just want to, and no offense to anyone who goes off and calls their business Michelle Tonneson Coaching or Consulting, etc. I just, for me, I wanted a name that had, uh, a different meaning than just my a deeper meaning than just my name, and so yeah, so I went with Maya because she's the Roman goddess of growth. She's also the mother of Mercury, who's the god of commerce. So I felt that was really fitting. I love mythical like names and references like that. I'm a bit of a bibliophile nerd as well. And yeah, so sort of epitomizes that journey of change that either an individual or a company can be on and how I can help them on the way. So yeah, so whether it's an individual, a startup, scale up, or an established company, I work with clients who need a helping hand in terms of growth and development.
Thank you. Thank you. And what have been some of the challenges that you've encountered as you were setting up Maya?
Well, I think one of the main ones have been as I mentioned, straddling, pivoting from consulting into the coaching space because uh, first of all, on a personal level, when you have been an advisor most of your career and you're told in your training you cannot give directions, you cannot give advice. So holding back on that, and also when it's like you're in your nature, you want to help. That that is a challenge that I've managed to overcome through mentoring, through experience, and really ensuring I have that self-awareness when I step into the coaching session. We are in a space where I am wearing a coaching hat. If there is a need for advice or mentoring, because some clients do come to me and expect that somehow. I also have in my master's, I studied intercultural communication. Sometimes people have communication challenges, and I can draw on that. Then I take the coaching hat off and I put the advisor hat or the mentor hat on. And I really make sure that I express this clearly in the session, that if you're happy with this and if this is what you need from this session, then I'm stepping out of the coaching role and into the advisor role. And that works really well. It was something I brought up a couple of times when I had my mentor supervision sessions, to make sure I did this in an ethical way, that I made sure it was about the client and they were in focus and their needs. And I supported them in the best way, but still adhering to the ethical guidelines of being a coach, which I really, integrity is one of my values. So I really, really strongly believe in adhering to the global coaching guidelines. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. Another challenge is actually also marketing. Because how do you ensure your clients are clear about your service offering when you offer two slightly different portfolios of services? And so that can be a challenge when you do like social media posts and so on. But I think it makes sense. It works for my clients. It works for me, as long as we're clear about when am I doing one thing and when am I doing another, and just so that the clients are aware. But yeah, it's a challenge, and I hope that I'm able to straddle that one.
Thanks, Michelle. Thank you very much. On the topic of being clear whether we're doing one thing or another, and wearing the different hats, as you mentioned, as a coach or a mentor, I'm curious if there's someone listening who's not entirely sure, about the difference between the two. I'm wondering what the what your what the importance is for you not just to tell your clients, maybe say C-suite executives, what the importance is of not just telling them what to do with their business and instead taking the coaching approach, but being able to take the mentoring approach as well from your wealth of experience.
Mm, that's an excellent question. Because it really depends on the contracting, right? We talk about that a lot in the training as well. Making sure upfront, what is it that you want me to help you with? But then if I'm in a consulting engagement, I apply a coaching mindset, because it is always better in terms of engagement and buy-in, that the client, the teams that you're working with, have helped come up with the solution. Whether it's change management process, whether it's new organizational design, whether it's recruitment. I often support recruitment assessment of candidates and so on. It's really important, for not just for me as a professional, but for them in terms of the end result being successful, that they have a strong buy-in. It was their decision, and not something that I told them to do. So I think that a coaching mindset is important, both as a consultant, as a manager as well. I did a webinar recently with someone about having this coaching mindset internally in organizations as a leader. And I think you can really benefit from that, not just as the individual leader, but the whole organization, your team members, because it just stimulates a completely different way of thinking than being very directive. So yeah, here's to your coaching mindset.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Because I guess, especially coaching, leaders at such a high level, that there's a risk of you becoming a sort of a shadow leader for the organization, and unintentionally influencing the organizational policy or the decision making process of, say, the CEO, the COO. So I wonder how you are able to notice that in order to make sure that doesn't happen.
Mm. So I'm very clear on when, as I mentioned, I'm doing coaching as a capital C coach and when I'm not. So coaching is separate to then we do formal sessions, uh, which are in confidence, etc. Whereas when I'm guiding uh, executive teams, CEOs, etc., on decision making and which direction to take their business, then I'm definitely wearing the consulting advisor hat. So it doesn't become, any kind of manipulation or something like that. That we're clear on. You've engaged me to support you on developing a strategy for this business unit or for new policies for your people and culture department, etc. Then that's what I'm doing. Then I provide my experience and expertise in that context. Whereas you'd like me to coach one of your managers to help them maximize their potential in terms of stepping up as a manager, a new manager, etc. That's a completely different ballgame. And I wear a different hat. It's a different context, different setting. And we establish some parameters of confidence, trust, etc. that I think it's really important to adhere to and respect.
It feels like a shout out to the importance of good contracting. But I guess we talk a great deal, particularly in these interviews, about the quality of coaching and how we can improve our coaching skills and abilities, but not so much our contracting. But that is such a key element of the coaching relationship as well.
Mm. But I mean, I make it sound so black and white. It really isn't in real life. Nothing is, right? So it definitely can be fluid sometimes. You're having a conversation with a CEO. When do we cross from being advisor into coaching, and there have been times where, yes, sure, it becomes a coaching conversation, and you guide them and support them. But I think that's just a benefit. It's a strength that gives me a certain versatility to support my clients, even when we're not in an official contracted coaching setting, that I support them as human beings, as whole persons, and not just from a business perspective. So at least I like to think so, and I hope they think so too.
Well, it's interesting you should say that. My next question was going to be, when I viewed your website, which is fabulous, by the way. We'll get a link to that in the description. You talk about the importance of working with the whole person, and I wondered what you mean by that, and of the importance of working with the whole person as a executive leadership coach.
Mm. So when I did coaching in the past, sort of informally and formally as well. It was quite focused on performance and development. Also because I worked in I don't like to use the expression HR because I feel it's really outdated and functional, systemic approach. It's more about people and culture and organizations. And when I worked in those positions, it was often about performance and talent management. So being able to now dive into that transformative coaching space, I think is so beneficial for everyone. And what I mean by that is that having the tools and frameworks to dive below the surface of the iceberg and what lies in the depth in terms of our values, our beliefs, our past, without obviously going into therapy territory, but because the past, influences our present, and the present, influences the future. We kind of, I feel we can go further if we are able to scratch a little bit below that surface and say, okay, what's driving this behavior? if it's a limiting belief, if it's, imposter syndrome. And it can get really heavy and emotional. I'm really happy I have the experience from HR, because I've had some really difficult conversations with people in my line of work. So I have that awareness and confidence to work with people in sensitive situations. Um, and also seeing the relief people can sometimes have, because a lot of people, and especially busy execs, don't have anywhere to go with this. And especially finding someone who doesn't have an agenda, someone who's not in your organization, and you can just voice what you feel, what you think about a certain situation, and actually dive into what is it that's going on here below the surface. I think yeah, it has a lot of value for the clients. So that's sort of what I mean by coaching the whole person. That yes, it may be about I'm uncomfortable stepping onto stages, or it may be a new manager who's not comfortable with that responsibility. And then we dive into, well, what's causing this? Where's this coming from? And what options do you have to, for a way forward to manage this in a sustainable way and make some positive changes to, whether it's to your beliefs, or whether it's your, setting specific goals around training, development, etc. I'm here to help.
Thanks for sharing, Michelle. I know with my clients, I talk a lot about the iceberg model. I often refer to it, and I often say, the deeper we go, ultimately, you know, sometimes the more difficult the conversations are for the coachee, but the more value they get, because coaching feels like one of those things. The more you put in, the more you get out.
Mm, absolutely. And also as coaches, I don't know about you, but sometimes when you finish a session, it's like, wow, I'm drained, because even though you might not be saying much, you're holding that space, you're actively listening, you're watching, and supporting, facilitating. And yeah, but then when you get those eureka moments, that breakthrough with the client, it's so gratifying, it's so rewarding, and you just afterwards, you just go, "This is why I'm doing what I'm doing." Yeah, I just find it so rewarding.
I agree, and I definitely agree with being in that strange state sometimes as a coach after a session of feeling drained and energized as well. It drained from having held the space and have had such an intense conversation where there were so many emotions and feelings, running, cursing through the conversation. But at the same time, you can see that light bulb moment when the client sees and realizes and goes, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize it all came back down to this," for example. And that there's something so magical about that moment when it happens.
It really is magic, and it's all through questions, right? And guidance, and just gentle, um, yeah, facilitation. I love it. I have to say, I love it.
Speaking of things we love, I'd love to ask you about a topic that's very close to my heart. And as we've spoken in depth about your massively ranging career experiences, so many different organizations, what we haven't mentioned yet are your international travel experiences. And I know on your website at the bottom it says Barcelona, Copenhagen, London, the world. And I wanted to ask you more about specifically how your travel experiences have influenced your kind of trajectory in life and your coaching as well. And I appreciate that's a really big question.
No, it's one I'm really happy to answer. So thank you for asking. I think it's what contributed to my having to reinvent myself several times, because when you move countries, you almost start from scratch, right? Whether it's you move through your own job or the job of your partner. uh, if you move through your own job, you may be given sort of an in for a network in terms of professionally, but it depends on the coach, because some places can be quite close, and maybe they don't really socialize outside of work. And maybe you are in a position, or your spouse is in a position that's quite senior, and the ones you want to hang out with are not, and that can give other, challenges. But it's definitely influenced my career trajectory because I've had to say, okay, do I then continue down consulting, career and path, and then I look for that type of work? Do I set up on my own, but then I need to go knocking on doors to find clients? Do I do something completely different, like when I moved to the Isle of Man, of all places, and started as a writer, that opened a whole new world to me. I was part of, the Manx Lit Fest panels, and I was in the local newspaper, and I wrote for a business magazine, and interviewed, like you're doing now, a lot of really interesting people on in the local business world and political world as well. Um, so yes, that has definitely influenced my career and the choices I have made or have had to make. Uh, but at the same time, I think it really suited me well because I am very curious by nature. And even though it can be super uncomfortable and it brings so many challenges, I love stepping out of my comfort zone and say, hey, what if I open this door? What's going to happen then? And I try it. Maybe, is that saying with, what if I fall? But darling, what if you fly? And I really feel like, okay, sometimes you fly, sometimes you don't. But if you don't try, I just really, really don't want to be one of those people who sit in a residential home when I'm 100 and go into my grave thinking, oh, I wish I'd written that book. Oh, I wish I'd tried setting up my own business. I wish. Uh, so I did go for realizing my dreams. And sometimes I must admit, probably my family and friends were like, oh my God, what is she doing now? Right. And you do have that feeling of, okay, is this crazy or is it brave? And that goes with moving countries too. So I've lived in the Middle East and traveled there when I was quite young, which was again one of those breaking the frame and the box that I had sort of put myself in, and my surroundings were expecting certain things from me, and I thought, no, I'm not going to be a young conservative, executive just yet. I'm gonna go to a socialist kibbutz, and I'm gonna backpack through the Middle East on my own, which was a challenge, as you know, as a solo traveler. But I fortunately met people quite quickly, and because it's not, some of the countries there obviously not as safe as a young uh, solo woman. Um, but I've lived in Brussels as well and worked there, which was such a thrill as a young professional. And the same London. My husband and I were young professionals when we came there, and then we ended up being 12 years in the British Isles, 5 years in London as young professionals. Then we had a family and moved to the Isle of Man, which was my husband's job who took us there. And every time you move countries, it's you have to start from scratch, as I mentioned. It's not just professionally, it's socially, it's culturally. And the biggest change was moving from the Isle of Man to Spain, as you can imagine, which we did nearly 6.5 years ago, because uh, we didn't actually know the language. We'd had 5 sessions with a language teacher. So I could count to 20 and I knew the days of the week. And here I am 6.5 years later, and I have a business here. We started and sold a business when we came, and kids are integrate. We have a amazing social circle here, and the language, yeah, getting there for sure. We have the challenge of living in Catalonia, which means we have another language to learn simultaneously with Castellano Spanish. So, but yeah, it means that you are continuously growing as a human being, because every day is a lesson in culture, language, ways of working, humor, sense of humor. How does it work in Spain, in Catalonia, in France because, there's a lot of expats where we live. And so you interact with people from all over the world. And the same with my clients. I mean, I have clients, thank goodness for technology. I have clients in France, the UK, the Nordic countries, because we're able to do this line of work online. Yeah, I think that works well, and it goes well with my globe-trotting, wanderlusting nature.
Goodness me. What a journey. What a journey. I mean, I've said before that I sometimes feel like not having all the answers and not knowing how things are going to work out and then doing it anyway almost seems to be like a prerequisite of success. And hearing you say, we moved to Spain and we could count to 20, knew the days of the week, but that was about it. To to take that leap of faith and move to this country and not know, I guess, if you're going to fit in, if it's going to work. Um, how do you find this shows up for your clients in coaching and in business as well? Um, con- you know, in contrast to only doing something when you feel like you have all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted.
Mm. I think that's where coaching can really be helpful. That it's a safe space to explore options, and to find different perspectives on a situation or a challenge. So I think that's where it comes into to play, helping your client, motivating them, guiding them, keeping them accountable, but also just I've got your back kind of, coaching. When they explore the reality they're in and the options they have for moving forward, that perhaps they can see things in a different light through the coaching. At least that's my experience with clients. That either in the session afterwards they go, "Oh, actually, that was so helpful to me to reflect on that and see that in different perspective because I hadn't thought of that. Oh, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could do that." And I see that in some of my testimonials as well, which I'm really grateful to have from my amazing clients I've worked with. That coaching helps them unlock things in a way that they perhaps couldn't if they'd continued trying to solve this on their own.
Thanks, Michelle. I want to ask you a question, which I don't know if I've got the words for it really, but it's kind of an unconventional question. Throughout your journey with your careers, your various different positions in different companies and countries as well, I'm wondering how being a coaching client, has impacted or affected you. As I'm making the assumption that you've had a lot of coaching over the years from a career perspective and maybe from a life coaching perspective as well. And I'm wondering what value that's added for you.
Well, actually, uh, you said something earlier before we started recording that struck a chord. I want to be the coach I never had or that I've always wanted to have. I've not had a lot of coaching myself. I've not, I've had some great managers, but I've also had some not so great ones. And I've sort of had to find my own way. I had a excellent coach growing up who was my dad. He wasn't particularly uh, how do you say this? He wasn't a coach in the way that we understand it, the nurturing adult state kind of the coach, more a directive one. But yeah, I think I learned a lot from him, always uh, encouraging me to be better, to always, do the very, very best I could. Um, and telling me that I had the potential to be anything I wanted. Not explicitly, but it was just there between the lines, which, creates perhaps some kind of expectation and pressure as well, which you can retroactively analyze in a therapy session or whatever. But I really feel that that encouraged me to just always reach for the stars. But I haven't had formal coaching sessions. I had once or twice as a graduate in some of the big four consulting companies, but not as an executive. I wasn't really offered that. We were offered as a team sometimes, as an executive team, but not as an individual. So that was actually really beneficial when doing the Animas training. You had free coaching from your peers. It did become a little bit hard at the end to try and come up with topics to be coached about, and you were sort of all coached out sometimes. But it was helpful because you experienced it firsthand, uh, how you can actually dive really deep into something, or how you can progress on something with the help of a coach, which, yeah, I wish everyone could have available to them. And I do pro bono coaching, because, yeah, I think it's such an important service, to provide to the world. Sounds very pretentious, but I really think that the world would be a better place if everyone was able to maximize the potential, live their best lives, you know. So yeah, it sound like Miss Universe or something here, but it's I really genuinely believe in this and the value of coaching. So yeah.
Thank you. There's such a lot in there I'd love to unpack, but I guess as you mentioned, sort of with your dad and his coaching, and as an example, as we were saying earlier, it is actually possible to coach or embody a coaching mindset and some of the coaching behaviors as someone who's not had a formal coaching education as such. And on that topic, I'm wondering what led you, after having taken the um, one coaching course, which I did have written down. I've lost it now, but
The business coaching
the
course, yes.
business coaching course, yes, prior to Animas. What led you to then taking the accredited diploma in transformative coaching with Animas back in, I believe it was 2022?
Yeah, no, good question. I just feel like I wanted a wider and deeper toolbox. I wanted that versatility as a coach and as a human being. Having the frameworks and techniques for coaching the whole person, which I really think that Animus provides. And then the accreditation. Coaching, as you know, is not a regulated field per se. We do have some incredible organizations that help ensure a degree of professionalism, ethics, etc. And it's so important to me, as mentioned earlier, that I adhere to that, and I wanted that sort of stamp of approval almost to show to my clients that I am a credible, certified, accredited coach. So that was a big part of it as well as personal development, and meeting people in the same boat and learning from them, learning from the instructor, from your mentor, and your peers.
Mm. Thanks, Marcel. So, in addition to becoming eligible for the stamp of approval from the coaching industry regulators, as you mentioned, the ICF, the AC, the EMCC, in addition to that, what did the Animas course offer to you?
Mm. Well, yeah, as I mentioned, it was the actual the training, the frameworks, the methodologies, the cognitive behavioral therapy, all of the tools that we got to practice them, uh, was really beneficial. Uh, and then I had a great cohort group. A big shout out to them because it was a challenging time for me personally when I did the training, and we continued to support each other throughout, and also after the training ended. We have a WhatsApp group that's fairly active. Um, and I keep in touch with my mentor, Nikki. She has a wonderful Greek surname that I'm not going to try and pronounce, but she's just been amazing, and I want to continue that supervision. I think it's important, not just for the certifications, etc., but to grow as a coach, as a human being, to have it's almost like having your own coach, right? A coach for the coach.
So, I'd love to ask you about, were there any any challenges you encountered while you were training with Animas, and how did the course, the reality of the course, match your expectations for how it might be?
Mm. I uh, I really felt it lived up to everything I expected and more, because I had heard about Animas from others. I've seen it on social media, and I had actually, when I decided to do the business coaching course, I had looked into it and had sort of a taster session and decided actually I needed something different at the time. Um, and then I was intrigued still, and went back and I did a session with Brinsley actually, and he's a very lovely chap and super persuasive as well. But no, I already knew before I went into that I was probably going to sign up, and I knew people who'd done the course and just spoke really highly of it, and I feel that it lived up to everything in terms of getting the frameworks, techniques to really be able to be a more versatile coach. Uh, Gave the accreditation certification, and then it gave the experience, right? Because you need quite a lot of coaching hours to complete, uh, and you need to do the self-reflection logs, which are really comprehensive. So it also enabled me to further develop my self-awareness, as a human being, as a coach. And then it was just really nice to have the cohort. And I had a great instructor as well, Lillian. Yeah, I think I mentioned that I went through a massive trauma myself during that training, and I almost went, I'm going to throw the towel in because this is just not possible. And especially because coaching requires so much from you as a human being. Am I able to be there for others when I'm going through this myself? Uh, but it gave me a space to focus on the future that I wanted to build. It gave me space to focus on other people and their challenges. And it just gave me that link to reality outside of the bubble I was otherwise and still am actually in. So yeah, in that sense, it was, fortunate and unfortunate timing. But because they were so supportive, the instructors, the back office team, and especially my cohort was just they were just amazing. So that, I think, it went beyond my expectations in that sense.
Thank you for sharing. It's interesting what you said about that it gave you a sort of an outlet and a distraction. It's interesting with coaching. I find one of the downsides is that you could work with a client who has a business, and just as you start to get into really understanding what their business is about and really make progress with them, that might then be the end of your contract with them. But then on the flip side, you get that lovely experience of, say, coaching several different um, business people with completely different businesses, different business models, and you have to literally switch modes, like switch channels depending on who you're coaching, and you get that wide exposure across all these different businesses, and you can't not benefit from that. Um, so I guess it compared to, for example, working full time in one organization where you can become almost a little bit snowblind, or a little, maybe there's a risk of kind of like a tunnel vision and not really seeing any other way that things can be done other than that organization's way. I think they call that becoming institutionalized.
Yes, when I was a management consultant, we call that going native, because when if you've been on a client engagement for like perhaps a whole year or more, you almost become part of the team and the organization, which has a lot of benefits. You have that, rapport and trust and confidence, and are able to achieve things in that through that. But at the same time, I think you are at the risk of losing the perspective that you provide when you come in as an external consultant, and the same as a coach, right? Because you build a relationship with the client, and I think that is amazing. But at the same time, you still need to ensure that little bit of distance to give perspective, also to not fall into the, you know, sympathizing, empathizing conundrum of just affirming the client constantly in what they're feeling and thinking, instead of perhaps challenging them and giving them different perspectives. So uh, I've loved working with all my clients, and I will hopefully continue to do so. I've had some very short ones, which were like a couple of sessions. I've had like my go-to, and this the most general approach is like 5 sessions and then a follow-up, a couple months later. And sometimes people need it quite intensively for a few weeks, and then it's every month. Other times, it spreads out over a longer time period. So I don't do like programs within a fixed set of time. I really believe in it being client led, whatever my client needs. Also in terms of duration. So I have an executive I work with. We've now had 10 sessions, and that is a completely different way of really working in depth on certain topics and challenges than the very neatly, wrapped up engagements that are, 5 sessions. We covered this, we use that framework, and then we reached a conclusion and a path forward, and everyone's happy, which is amazing too. It really depends on the client. And I think that's why it's so important that coaching is client led. It's about their needs, it's their space. Uh, if they want to, I give them options. For example, oh, would you like to do the urgent and important exercise? Because I hear you mentioning, you're overwhelmed, you need a little bit of support in terms of prioritizing, time, and maybe be able to delegate something, maybe eliminate something completely. And that has been really helpful to a lot of clients, right? Some of these, like, well, maybe it's the values exercise, really diving into who am I? What guides my decision making and behavior? Am I in the right place then in terms of my job, my organization, or in life, because not all of my clients are executives or managers in organizations. Some of them are, as I mentioned, stay-at-home moms. Yeah, they could be really anyone.
Thank you, Michelle. It really feels like an organization bringing you on board as a coach both gets the benefit of a fresh pair of eyes, but also a very experienced pair of eyes who's been there, done that, and worn the t-shirt, so to speak. Having been involved in so many businesses and also having coached so many different clients as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I really think that my experience and having been in a lot of my clients' shoes give me the credibility as a coach, but also that relatability, uh, that I've been there, got the war wounds. I've been in the trenches too. I got my hands really dirty, um, and in all kinds of difficult situations and different organizations and industries. And having that versatile background experience, I hope my clients feel they benefit from that. Without, obviously, I'm not advocating that you bring yourself into the coaching session. It is the client session, but being authentic and, when relevant, bringing helpful perspectives on a situation with the permission of the client, I think it can be really beneficial. Um, yeah.
I know. I always find there's great power in both as a client, as a coach, when someone says, "This is how I'm feeling," to be able to say, "Yeah, I've been there as well. I can relate," and to just hold that, a problem shared is a problem halved is something that, yeah, rings really true for me. So, if there's sort of to round off our fabulous conversation today, if there's someone listening who would love to find out more about what you're working on and perhaps get in touch with you, what would be the best way for them to reach out?
Well, LinkedIn is, always a great place. You can see my background, what I've done, and what I'm currently offering. Uh, and so feel free to connect. I love connecting with people. And my website, Maya.services. You can see both my service portfolio in consulting and in coaching as well. As I said, I do leadership coaching, business coaching, career coaching, performance coaching, and team coaching. I love working with teams, ensuring, we put all the bits and bobs in place for them to be performing. But also transformative life coaching, as I mentioned, communication, confidence, wide range, I would say. And I love that. I like that I'm able to branch into other areas like that, and I'm able to help more people and support more people in a confident and safe way.
Thanks, Michelle. I know if someone goes on your website and they simply only read the testimonials and nothing else, I know that they alone speak for themselves, and they are a testament to the fantastic work that you're doing in organizations.
Thank you for noticing that, because setting that up was really challenging. Because you're just building your own website as well. So yeah, but that I think has been my greatest, achievement and success was coaching all these amazing people, and then being them telling me what a different it's positive difference and change it's made in their lives, because that's really what you want, right? To help people live and be their best selves. So yeah, thank you for noticing that. My testimonials are like my little treasure box of golden nuggets, and yeah, no, I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, David, for having me. It's been wonderful, and yeah, I look forward to hopefully keeping in touch. And if anyone wants to get in touch with me, they're more than welcome.